So it looks like Persona 4 Remake is just right around the corner, and it really makes sense for that to be the case. I mean, if you've been keeping up with Persona and the franchise as of late, and especially Persona 3 Reload, it shouldn't really come to any surprise that we are getting a remake of Persona 4. From a business perspective, it just makes a lot of sense. And ever since we got confirmation that a Persona 4 Remake registration was made, the same way, mind you, that Persona 3 Reload also got its registration made just a few months before its official reveal. I mean, besides the news that we're going to talk about here today, there really isn't any more confirmation you need other than this to tell you that this game is real. And going off of domain registrations and also going off of the history of what we saw with Persona 3 Reload, this Persona 4 Remake is something that is coming very soon. So as always, do not forget to like the video and subscribe to keep up to date with anything JRPG or gaming related in the future. And with that, let's get into it. So we did talk about this a little bit in my last video, but Persona 4 Remake looks like it's something that is coming out extremely soon, like this year type of soon. And like I said earlier, Persona 4 Remake having a registration domain, having that be made, it not only suggests that this game is extremely real, which I think we could all discern that, you know, Atlus was going to make a Persona 4 remake way before any of this came to light. But again, something that is coming very soon, especially if we're going off of recent history with Persona 3 Reload. And with the biggest summer game events on the horizon, it just makes too much sense to have this at those shows, whether it be Summer Games Fest or the Xbox shows, because at this point, all the fans know it's coming. Like, it's no secret at this point, and even the original voice cast has come out and just blatantly just confirmed that this remake is real. And from a business perspective, if I was running a company of my own, if I had any say in these endeavors, I also just believe that the existence of these two remakes just make too much sense. When you're talking about Persona 3 Reload, this Persona 4 remake, it all just makes sense to have these come right before your big heavy hitter Persona 6. Because now you have the Nintendo Switch 2 releasing just right around the corner, and with that, you know, Nintendo Switch can release these Persona games and maximize their fan base, increase profits, and really just getting people that much more excited for the next big mainline title in the series, Persona 6. And you know, looking at the release patterns for these last couple of games, when you're looking at Persona 4 to Persona 5 being, you know, 8 years, right? And now Persona 5 to where we're currently at right now, almost being 9 years. It just makes sense for Persona 3 Reload to release and then Persona 4 Remake release this year, only to have Persona 6 release within the next year or two. And I really mean that. I do think Persona 6 is right around the corner, just a couple years from now. And when it does get revealed, I can very much guarantee it is going to be the most talked about and hyped up games of that year. But I will say, I will predict that Persona 4 Remake will be the last major game we see from Atlus until we eventually see Persona 6 get revealed. Again, from a business perspective, this pipeline just makes too much sense. And I'm hoping that with the arrival of these big gaming events just next week, we can finally see a reveal and a release date for Persona 4 Remake. So this has been going on for, you know, a couple days now, but I wanted to talk about it here today. And that's about Persona 4 Golden's English VA cast and pretty much the voice cast for the entirety of the compilation for Persona 4, pretty much coming out and saying that they are not reprising their roles as these characters. And this came to a surprise to a lot of people, including myself, because, you know, while it is very normal for voice actors to come out and say that they may not be reprising their roles, that they are being replaced, these voice actors came out to announce this before the game was even officially announced. I mean, you have Yuri Lowenthal, a legendary voice actor within the gaming industry, and also the voice actor for Yosuke in Persona 4. But he comes out and he says, quote, "And for those who keep asking, no, I will not be returning as Yosuke for the Persona 4 remake. I asked, I even begged, but they don't want me to come back." And it wasn't just Yuri Lowenthal who came out and, you know, said this, but it was also other voice cast members from the game who also expressed that, you know, they're kind of disappointed that they can't return for these characters, considering that they've been these characters for well over a decade. And so even more so than us being attached to these characters because of them, they have been way more attached to these characters because they have been these characters for years. Characters who have been a part of their everyday lives for so many years. And so the fact that not only one but multiple actors from the game have come out and said this before the remake has even been officially announced, it is very telling, and it tells me that they are just disappointed and, judging by the situation, frustrated that they can't reprise their roles, return to these characters they've spent so long with. At least so far, this isn't a situation to where, you know, these actors are being mistreated or anything like that. It more so sounds just like a common practice that Western media culture is very familiar with, especially when it comes to remakes and reboots. It's not like any of this is really new in the industry when you're talking about doing a complete recast. I mean, just going off of the recent history with the series alone, this is something that Persona 3 Reload has done, and I'm not really surprised that Persona 4 Remake is doing the same thing. I see many people ask why they do it, and it's really simple. It's a creative choice. Again, it's a common practice with remakes and reboots with any piece of media, and Western culture has done this a lot. You know, most likely it is not personal, it's just a business thing, and that's how this stuff goes. It isn't because the old cast was bad, absolutely not. It is simply, again, a creative endeavor to establish and give opportunities to up-and-coming actors. On a business perspective, you're looking towards the future. You want these actors to be playing these characters for, you know, years and years on end. I mean, just look at the movie industry with the new DC universe. There was absolutely nothing wrong with Henry Cavill. In fact, he was the best looking Superman we've ever had. And then you have James Gunn, who is establishing a completely new cinematic movie universe. And so in his vision, he is casting completely new and younger actors for these roles. A new set of actors who can play these roles indefinitely. Again, it is not because they hate or have anything personal against the previous actors, it is simply a creative choice. It's also something that happened with Final Fantasy VII Remake. You know, we had, you know, an established voice cast for those characters and they were great. But especially, you know, especially with remakes and reboots, when you're talking about the media industry in the West, this is something that just happens all of the time. Although on the flip side, some people do think that this could just be a marketing thing and that these actors are actually just playing along with some type of bit, especially since they were tweeting in the order of how the characters were introduced as party members in the game. A very crazy coincidence, but one that I don't buy into, especially because as of this recording, none of the other actors have come out to give a tweet of their own, and if they were on a bit, I would, you know, kind of expect to see a tweet every day, at least from one cast member. But I personally do think it was just a coincidence and that these actors are actually just coming out and saying their piece and their farewells to the characters, which is kind of sad, but that's just how it is. So while I am very sad to see the old VA cast go, given that Persona 4 had my favorite cast in the game, a large part due to its very iconic voice cast, I still think that if this Persona 4 remake does have a new cast, then it's something I'll keep an open mind about it, just like I did with Persona 3 Reload. So with everything that we know, it looks like Persona 4 Remake is going to follow directly in the footsteps of the development of Persona 3 Reload when you're talking about reusing assets, adding more content and improving gameplay, doing a complete recast, and of course, you know, maximizing the fan base of Persona. It is all just very clearly preparation until we can finally see Persona 6. And while there are some that don't think that Persona 4 really needs a remake, and while I do think that it doesn't need a remake, I definitely think it could go for a lot of the improvements that we saw in Persona 3 Reload, and I'm definitely not adverse to seeing an improved Persona 4. So tell me what you guys all think about this down below. What are your thoughts on the original original voice cast, not only coming out and pretty much confirming the existence of Persona 4 Remake, but saying farewell to the characters altogether. Do you think they're actually saying goodbye, or is this all just a part of a marketing tactic? Definitely let me know all of that and more down below, and with all of that said, I will catch you guys in the next one.